This is a demo of our Players tab, as well as all the options on the top of the tool. So to start, you just select your sport, you select the site you're on, and you select the slate. You can back test older slates. You'll see the old slates with a red X and the current live slates with a green check mark. The old slates have old projections and old salaries, so you can back test and adjust your strategy and adjust moving forward. We also have a projections drop down where you can select cash game projections, GPP projections, and the last 3 and last 7 averages. We provide an update date and time when these projections were last updated. Sometimes when you come to the tool, if you haven't been there in a while and projections have updated, you'll see a big update projections bar pop up, which allows you to update all the projections, but you'll lose any manual settings you've done in your projections, or you can wait until later to update those projections. You'll see that once in a while when you come back to the tool. You can upload your own projections. You can copy and paste in here. You can fill these players and paste in projection and exposure. Then you just click update projections and you'll see all the projections here. There's a demo here for you to watch that walks you through all this. You can create your own set name and save it so that you could go back here and select your own projection set from the dropdown as well. We've moved advanced options into this button here. This is the bulk update where you can search for players by name or by team, and you can update their projection all at once. You can give them a boost or fade them, or you can add some exposure to all the players in the bulk update as well. You can lock them all or exclude them all as well. Down below, we have various filters to filter the table by team total and salary projection, points per 1K, floor and ceiling, consistency. You can see players that are both home and away, or you can narrow them down. You can turn color badges on and off, which as you can see in the background behind here, you'll see the color badges. You can turn tips on as well, which gives you tool tips when you hover over each element. That's for people that haven't used the tool before. It really gives you a nice intro and explains each option. We provide a lineup budget constraint, so if you're wanting to play in some smaller slates or build some contrarian lineups, some diversity in your lineup building, you can decrease the lineup budget. You can lock some players and decrease the lineup budget, and that'll give you a nice diverse range of lineups. You can allow a defense to go against your offensive players. You can disallow a quarterback and wide receiver combo if you want, and you can also set a max players per team. That's another way to get some diversity. You can lock your flex position into a certain position. And then once again, unique players. This is a really nice way. This means unique players across multiple lineups. So if you selected 3, all your lineups would have to have at least 3 unique players. So this can get you a lot of diversity for multi-entries. Our excludes, we give you the option to show excludes in the table, or if you don't want to see them and only see them in the excludes tab, you can turn that off. We also have player pools. These are pre-built filters to help you filter the tables below. So if you're looking for someone with high targets, or someone that can really hit the long ball, you can select this option. You can select multiple, and that'll filter the players in the table below. And then you can always generate lineups, and this is the number of generate lineups you're going to build. If you're doing lineups throughout the week, this building profiles is a great option to save a ton of time. Let's say you found a set of combinations that you liked. You want to lock the flex, you want unique players, you locked a bunch of players, and you really like where you generated lineups. You can come back here and add in a profile. And let's say this is on Monday. You're going to do Monday and lock flex RB, something like that. And then you just save that profile. And you can go back to that at any time, and it'll preload all your settings. So it can save you a ton of time. You can delete those profiles. You can save over them if you make changes. You can add new profiles, so lots of options there. Moving along, this is the help button. You'll likely come here once in a while. Just using tools with lots of data, cache can get old. So at one point, you might have to nuke tool. And what this does is it resets the entire tool. It resets your browser cache for this page as well. So this is the way, if you're having any issues, to just really reset everything. And then if you have any issues seeing the optimizer, just run through these options. And then last resort, click that nuke tool. and it'll reset the entire tool for you. So down below, this is your stack section. You can add team stacks, you can add player stacks, and you can add save stacks, which come from the stack generator, which is in the tools tab. But for each stack line that you create, and you can create multiple if you like, you select the number of stacks out of the lineups that you want. So if you're generating 10 lineups and you have 5 stacks here, 5 of these 10 lineups will include this stack. So if I wanted to stack the best team in the NFL, the Atlanta Falcons, I would select their team. I would select the number of players I want. If I wanted to lock in 1 QB, and then maybe I wanted 2 wide receivers, I would select that and just generate lineups, and that stack would be included in the lineup. It'll build the lineup around that stack. And you can do the same thing with multiple teams. You can also stack around a particular player. If you really like one player, you can stack around that player as well. You can let the optimizer select any player with him, or you can actually select 1 or 2 players and build around those stacks as well. We have projection models here, which are built-in models that filter the table, that update projections down below. So if you clicked in the yards per game allowed, it would update all players going against defenses, and if the defense allows a lot of yards per game, that'll update the projection accordingly. You can do the same thing with Vegas total, fantasy points allowed, ceiling. And if you need any explanation, just go back, turn on the tooltips, and then hover over each one. Exposure is one of the most powerful elements you can use here, especially if you're doing multiple lineups. You turn on exposure, and down below, this becomes a box that you can edit. We have a powerful exposure ability, and what you can do is you can either set it. If I set it without a lock on exposure, this would mean that Tom Brady can be in 50% or less of my lineups. So that would be 5 out of these 10 lineups. If the optimizer decides, he can display none of them because you're giving the optimizer the option. If you lock a player and then change the exposure, that locks them into this amount of exposure. So now Tom Brady must be in 5 of these 10 lineups. If you want more diverse lineups, you can turn on global exposure and set exposure across the board so that no player can be above 50% or 25% or whatever you wish. And you can combine the two as well. You can set global exposure and set Tom Brady for a different exposure to get multiple lineups. Okay, down below we have filters on the players. At any point you can search for any player here regardless of the position, and it'll display that player for you. That's a quick option. You can click that X to X out of that. These are just multiple pages on each position. You can reset individual elements or reset all if you are making adjustments and you want to go back to default. And then down below we have the name. This is the lock icon. This is the exclude icon. This is the icon that sends them to bulk update. So if you go in here, you'll see Beckham Jr. in the bulk update. This is creating a player stack. So let's say you're going through the table, you really like this player. It'll pop up here and already pre-populate the name for a player stack. This is the position tab. We color code. We have various greens, yellows, and reds to designate the top to the bottom in terms of tiers of players. We rank them. You can sort by each column. Exposure, points per 1K, cafe value. You can hover over this for an explanation of each. You can edit projections in the box, and once you do so, you'll see it highlight around the box. If you've increased the amount, you can hover and you'll see that increased amount. If you decrease the amount, you'll see a red box and you can hover and see that decrease. Teams that they're playing, spread, total, over, under, game theory, which we provide. That's our own formula. Yards per game allowed. This is in the opponent section. TDs, fantasy points per game allowed. And then the performance of the player over the last 8, their floor, ceiling, and consistency. So make sure to watch the demos on each tab. They go over each tab separately. But this is the demo for the players tab, and wish you the best.